Good morning. Appreciate all those who believe in being punctual and are here. We've got a lot of people running late. But in the interest of time, we will get started, and I hope you're all charged up. We have a very thought-through agenda to present to you today, and we truly believe it can add a lot of value to your business journeys. Having said that, let me get started. And as Bhavna said, my topic is the 5 data architects that can help you drive AI success. It's a very, very close to heart topic for MMA. It is a very valuable subject, which I'm so happy to share with you. I don't need this. Yeah. Okay. The phrase, we've heard this phrase, data is the new oil. How many of us have heard it? Data is the new oil? Guess what? Now it's redundant. We've heard enough of it, we've seen enough of it. Now, data is the refinery itself. It is the entire data ecosystem which is bringing a lot of growth and value to businesses. We no longer can talk the language of data as the new oil, but we need to remember it is the refinery that's fueling AI success. So having said that, think of data as the root of a thriving AI ecosystem, where if the roots are not deep, are not solid, even the most advanced AI models are going to continue to struggle. So if your data ecosystem is not strong, your roots are not strong, it will not deliver meaningful results. And which is what the current problem is. Which is why the results we often get through all the AI experiments we do are not very accurate. And which is why we keep saying that AI is work in progress. It's because we still have to build a very strong data foundation for it to thrive and deliver on results, right? So to help you better understand the value of data in the age of AI, we have thought through the theme, which you see right there, data first, AI next. Make it your hashtag, and follow it for the entire new year of 2025, right? And to really bring it alive for you, what I'm going to do today is, really talk you through a data maturity journey, which allows you to really move up the ladder of being data first. So let me show you some interesting stuff that's really going to help set the context for this theme we have for you today. So MMA Global in the US and in India partnered with EY and conducted an extensive data maturity study to understand the impact it has on business outcomes. So for that, we identified 5 areas of data maturity, and those 5 primarily were governance, which is compliance, ROI, activation, which is not in terms of tactical use, but really maintaining quality data processes, data skills, and the ability to integrate, not work in silos with data. So these were the 5 parameters which we looked at deeply to understand data maturity levels. And these are the ones which essentially can dictate how scalable data systems can be for us to embrace AI at scale. What's interesting is that data maturity is not homogeneous. It is multifaceted. As you can see here, this is actually a piece of research we did in the US. We'll come to the India version as well, where we were able to very clearly see that data maturity is very, very heterogeneous. It is multifaceted. And why do we say that? So if you look at these figures here, right? Now, this looks like a great number, 83%, but the reality is they're strong on compliance, but low on innovation. Let me get to another figure, where this says 54% people are using data actively, but the reality is their measurement systems are very weak, and they're not measuring it effectively. If I go to the last one, which is building data skills, only 50% really have invested deeply into building data capabilities, into building data skills. So the reality is, whilst the numbers look what they look, but in most cases, there is so much to travel. With even in case of ROI, 59% are doing well with ROI, but they're not measuring it as effectively as they should. So these are the reasons why data maturity is the way it is. And these are basically also ways to look at why we say data maturity is multifaceted. So moving on to the next point, so which is bringing us closer to the topic of today. So since we definitely believe data maturity is a journey, you have to keep raising the bar. You have to keep evolving it to be able to use the actionable insights and drive business results. So what we did is when we partnered with EY to understand data maturity levels, we did it in two markets. We did it in the US and we did it in India identically. Yeah? And all the results that we were collecting, we clustered it into something we call data archetypes, right? And in India, we created these 4 archetypes that you see here. So this is the lowest level to be at, which is the left behind, where you're low when it comes to data management against the 5 parameters I called out, right? Or you could be a data enthusiast and you still have a long way to go to move to the right side, right? And then comes the category of data committed. So these are the archetypes that we're talking about. And then is the ideal space, which is the data leader, right? Eventually, whichever part of the quadrant you are in, finally the attempt is how does one get to be a data leader to really do justice to the value data brings. So these are the clusters we identified. We helped organizations plot themselves in it, whether they are left behinds, whether they are enthusiasts, whether they are committed, or they're leaders. And of course, like you can see, there is a need for several categories to be very high on data maturity. And if they are not, they are at high risk, right? So for example, a category like this cannot have players sitting here. These are categories where you have to be more mature. Categories like finance, categories like technology, or even for that matter, categories like CPG. You got to be more towards the other side of the spectrum, right? So this is how we clustered it to make them understand how various sectors were faring. And after which, what we basically did is we tried to help them benchmark where they stand within their category and in the specific cluster they belong to. So that is what helped them. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So basically, we carried out something called a personalized benchmarking exercise where each organization could really decide and understand how they specifically fare in their organization when it comes to data maturity and against which, and how do they stack up in their category itself. So it allowed them to understand this assessment, right? Because eventually we know that there is potential to move from being low on data maturity to high on maturity. So now that we have looked at what comprises data maturity, we've looked at what are the archetypes and how each one of us stack up, we clearly have the aspiration of finally moving to where the data leaders are. So to move to where the data leaders are, it's important to understand what is it that they do and which we could borrow from in terms of learnings, in terms of perspectives. So there are these 7 key areas which make data leaders do well and succeed, right? And what are they? So basically, the first one is data leaders have a strong vision and alignment for data which is aligned to their business strategy, right? So they're very, very strongly aligning their data vision to the business strategy. The second is they have a longer-term growth mindset. They recognize that the value of brand whilst optimizing for performance. They do not just look at data adoption as a short-term exercise. They recognize what it can do as a long-term brand building exercise, and they also do not treat ROAS as a lead KPI, which all of us get stuck into, right? Which is return on ad spends. The third point is data leaders are focused on building sophisticated use cases. So if you look at this graph, right, most people are actually where you see the pink highlighted and are doing a lot of the tactical stuff as you should. But where you really need to go is here, right, to be data mature. So you could really leverage data to build use cases around the right product catalog, to build richer business models, and to really understand purchase behavior at scale. right? So that's what actually data leaders do effectively and create, and therefore they take better decisions with data. The fourth one is there, this is so important, and I'm sure we all struggle with this, right? Data leaders do have joint ownership on the data agenda, right? It's not just a marketer's problem. It is a C-suite ownership. It is a C-suite problem to ensure that data strategy is working seamlessly across the organization to deliver on business success. The fifth point is data leaders have progressed from tactical to strategic focus areas for data. It is no longer about, like you see, when you're here, or even up to commercial connectivity, it's still tactical. It's really when you go to the higher, concentrations of decision making, value creation, is where you are using data way more strategically than tactically. So having said that, what is also very, very interesting is performance and customer data are critical outcomes data leaders are looking for when it comes to business, when it comes to results out of data, efficacy out of data, and when it comes to taking decisions. They're actually deeply looking at customer data along with performance, right? Lastly, data leaders understand the value brand equity plays on the spectrum of brand to performance marketing. Like we normally tend to optimize more for the short term or just look at short term tactically, but the reality is you have to optimize for the short term whilst building for the long term. And that's what basically allows you to really use your brand equity to deliver performance even in hard times, right? So those essentially were the 7 perspectives which we have discovered through the extensive research we did in collaboration with EY, which helps you really think like a data leader. So far what we've told you is what are the 5 parameters that comprise data maturity. We've told you that what are those data archetypes that you can plot data maturity against. And we spoke about the 7 ways data leaders tend to think and which you could be inspired from to go more data mature, right? Having said that, data maturity is basically, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. Data maturity is basically what we just spoke through, the 5 parameters. I'm not going to read through it, but again, a very higher order view. For us to really think like data leaders, these are the areas to focus on when it comes to data maturity, be it making it a C-level priority, be it not just thinking compliance, but also innovation along with it, be it looking at ROI, but also being more measurement conscious and building solutions to measure effectively, be it not just thinking activation tactically, but building data systems that can really drive quality results in the long term. Integration, the biggest pain point. We are always working in silos. How do you integrate more effectively to be able to succeed with data? And of course, lastly, data skills, which is the combination of not just investing into MarTech solutions, but really knowing how to use them, right? So these are the areas of data maturity which we really seriously need to think about. And if this is something you want to understand deeply for yourself, and really see that how do you get the winning edge, I'd urge you to scan the QR code, which we'll hold on to for a bit, if it's of interest to you to understand the data maturity level of your organization and how you could sort of, and how you stack up in your category, how you could do better on the parameters where you're ranking low. It's for you. I'll give you a couple of seconds to scan it. Go for it. Okay, so on that note, coming closer to what we have in store for you today. So data maturity is, of course, a journey, and MMA continues to be your ally in this journey. Today, you will hear from a lot of our leaders on how we can be data first. So you will, of course, first hear from Suresh on how he's built a powerful platform to enable a seamless customer journey and to really offer superlative customer experiences. And of course, post which we'll have Manik talk about the critical data markers and how they're being leveraged in the mobility space. In the second half, we also have Soumya, who's the MMA India board member, MD of Kantar, who's going to talk to us about AI-powered consumer data and how you can leverage it for business success. Whilst, of course, through the day, we have a lot of interesting panel discussions. We have a report launch, which is basically here is where we'll unveil the first look before we distribute it. And we'll close with valedictory remarks by Jasprit Bindra. So those are the sessions to look out for. Those are our speakers for the day, who would definitely be adding a lot of value to your understanding. Like I said, there's a report launch. Do look out for it. It is before lunch. And with that, what I'd like to definitely do is say a big thank you to all our partners who have made this event a possibility, to all of those who will gain from it, not only those who are in the room, those who are catching it live, those who are going to consume it offline. And it's only because of our partners and speakers that it's possible. And as you know, MMA India is a thriving member ecosystem. We work very collaboratively with our members, with our board, to bring to you curated cutting-edge resources and cutting-edge thinking. So now I'm going to end with something important as I close my welcome address. So they say, or rather I'd like to say, AI eats data for breakfast, AI eats data for lunch, and AI eats data for dinner. So if you starve it, then there is no AI advantage. No data readiness is equal to no AI advantage. Hence, the right way to do it is to really become data first and think AI next, and in turn, experience what I'd like to call, a very, very popular term, the Goldilocks moment. The Goldilocks moment is where she just knew how to eat from the bowl which was rightly hot. Not the one which was too cold, not the one which was too hot, but the one which was just right. And that is a state in which you can really, really achieve business success. So gear up for your Goldilocks moment and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.